The Undercountry Music News is an excerpt of the weekly internet broadcast Undercountry Music, which features music from great country artists you won't hear on mainstream radio, as well as a roundup of the most interesting country music news of the week without all the fluff. This program you're listening to right now contains only the news portion of the show. To listen and subscribe to the full weekly episode containing the music and interviews, please visit undercountrymusic.com or simply subscribe to the Undercountry Music Podcast on iTunes. Let's get into it. I'm having to get real creative, but that's okay. I reach out in general. I put ads out and say, hey, guys, send me your music. Unfortunately, the bulk of the music that I get, well, it's the same as the bulk of country music that's out there. Largely unimaginative, largely one bad cliche after the other. Then you get some guy croaking out a tune wearing a cowboy hat, and he's got 12-bar blues behind him. You know, the standard 12-bar blues progression, which means that he was too effing lazy to write any music to go with his song. Or it's an Ooh, I Love You Baby song, or I'm So Heartbroken You're Left, or hey, it's Friday night in the honky tonk, let's rip it up. I mean, that's, you know, tractors, trucks, and beer. I'm sorry, but if that's all you're coming with, I don't want it here. I'm looking for people who color outside the lines in country music. I'm looking for people who love country music who actually have something to say, or at least something funny, something different. Just say something that's effing different. Anything, something, anything. My God. It's the Friday night. The joint was hot and the beer was cold. Somebody effing shoot me. And you know what? When these guys send me this crap, where it's just one stupid cliche after another, I write them back and I tell them, hey, you know, they might even be a really good group going after the industry. I say, look, I understand you're going after the industry thing, but I mean, damn, every single song I never made it past the first 3 lines because it was the same tired 4 cliches that I hear in every other song out there. I mean, for crying out loud. Why? Why are you doing this? Well, I know why I'm doing this, because I love country music. I just love to hear country music where someone actually puts something into it. Is that too damn much to ask? Newsflash! It's time for the Undercountry Music News! Damn it! For you Undercountry Music News rookies, here's what's going down each and every week right here on this program you are sticking in your ear holes right now. I go on to Google and I type in 3 little words that every cyber mama wants to hear. It's not eat my shorts. It's not send me cliches. It's not my cowboy hat. It's country music news. And each week, I pull up all the major country music news websites. And I sift through their piles of garbage press releases. Because that's what they largely are. They're filled with, like, you know, Kelly Pickler's new line of toe socks. I think I've used that one before. And each of them have about 3 or 4 Taylor Swift stories. Although Taylor Swift hasn't been a damn country artist in 4 years. Are you effing kidding me? So what I do so that you don't have to is I go onto all these websites and I find the 1, maybe 2. Sometimes I get lucky and find 3 country music news stories that actually are news. and I compile them from one website and another website and another website, and I find those 1 or 2 or 3, and I put them all together until I actually have a collection of real news stories from the world of country music and Americana. I like to throw Americana in there too, because, you know, country on its own is a little bland these days, by and large, with the industry. So I got to color outside the lines a little bit. And actually, most of the original country artists these days have taken refuge under the banner of Americana, because what's coming out of country mainstream these days is just... Which leads me, that little farty sound actually leads me to the last little final tidbit before we get into it, which is that when I go onto a website and they got nothing but Kelly Pickler toe sock stories and Taylor Swift and the real reason she went pop, and that's all they effing got, I reward that website with the dreaded under country music news wet belch of the week. And it sounds a little something like this. That was live, folks, not pre-recorded. All my wet belches are done live, because you deserve nothing but the wettest. Let's get into it. I'm fired up. I got peppermint tea. You know what? I went downstairs this morning to get some coffee, and I was out of damn coffee. So I gotta sift through the tea box. And, well, my wife's tea box, I'm raiding it. And all she's got is decaf tea, because she's all mellow. I mean, she's like the yin to my yang. You know? And she gotta be mellow. That's the only way she can put up with me. Okay? So I'm going through this tea box, and it's one fruit flavor after another. I mean, it's like a damn orchard in there. So I'm like orange and blueberry, and, well, there's like ginseng and ginger and Marianne and Skipper, and I don't know, but I finally came across, you know, if I'm going to drink decaf tea, damn it, you know, I need something that's going to help me with my violence. Not to quell it. I need something that's going to spark my violence. And I found it in a little flavor called peppermint. Now I'm really pissed. Okay, let's get into it. Over at CMT, Little Big Town got blindsided on Friday, October 3rd, at the end of their 3-song set at the Grand Ole Opry by Reba McEntire, who came on stage and sang the last few lines of their song Pontoon with them. Now, that's not the story. Here's the story. Afterwards, while they're still standing on stage, Reba talked with them about how the Grand Ole Opry was actually the very first venue Little Big Town played together as a group in 1999, and how special the Opry is to Little Big Town. Now, how'd you like that for your first gig, the Grand Ole Opry? Now, you know you got some hookups when your first gig is the damn Grand Ole Opry. Come on now. But then Reba invited them to become the newest members of the Grand Ole Opry. Vince Gill will induct Little Big Town on October 17th, and Little Big Town's new album, Painkiller, will be released October 21st. Big congratulations to Little Big Town. Painkiller, that's an Alice Cooper album, isn't it? It's also a Judas Priest album. You are the painkiller. No! Love that album. Yeah, between the hammer and the anvil. Sorry, my metalhead side is coming up. And speaking of inductions, the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame has inducted 4 new members as of Saturday, October 5th. John Anderson, Paul Kraft, Gretchen Peters, and Tom Douglas. Congratulations there, songwriters. And Garth Brooks has announced the title of his upcoming new album, and it will be called Man Against Machine. it's probably about I'm imagining that comes from his fight with iTunes and all that stuff. And how, he's got like a thing about people downloading his stuff online. And, this album's set to be released this November. And you can find, if you really dig hard, his latest song, People Loving People. Although I don't know why I listened to it, I didn't dig it. But, maybe after I hear it a few more times, I might get into it. I doubt it, though. I didn't really care for it. But I'm sure he'll probably have... there's usually always a few Garth Brooks songs on whatever he releases that I do dig, He's a good artist. I just didn't happen to dig that one song. Anyway, moving right along. Going to GAC, Great American Country. A lot of the times I call them Great American Crap. But not this week, because I do have a good story over there. Shania Twain has opened a school program for underprivileged kids called, now this one's a mouthful, Shania Kids Can Clubhouse. What the hell kind of name is that? Shania Kids Can Clubhouse? Don't say that with your mouth full of Twinkies. She'll be providing $100,000 per year, or at least her organization will be, for the next 4 years to the Sir Winston Churchill Public School in Brampton, Ontario. So what happens at the end of 4 years? Do you pull the funding and say, okay, screw you, bye? Hey. Anyway, kids will receive free tutoring, healthy snacks, guess not mouthfuls of Twinkies, recreational programs, and life skills coaching. We didn't have life skills coaching when I was a kid. We had paddles on a rack in the principal's office. You went to the principal's office, you got your ass lit up by a 1-inch thick paddle. And these things weren't small either. These were like cricket bats. Matter of fact, teachers could spank us too. I had teachers take me into the janitor's closet, bend me over a damn garbage can, and take turns wailing on my ass. Didn't help much, but I'm sure they enjoyed it. Moving right along on our river of country music news. Flowing here. We come to Taste of Country. They've got the taste of the undercountry music one belt of the week, because they got Jack Bupkus. And over at Country Weekly, now this is a really interesting story with so many angles, vantage points, and perspectives that I don't even know where to begin. So I'm just going to lay the story out, which is brought to us by Bob Paxman over at Country Weekly. And I'm going to let you draw your own conclusions and points and, as it were. Right. Glen Campbell, who's currently so riddled with Alzheimer's he can barely recall his own name, is being sued by a production company who claims Glen signed an exclusive agreement with them to create his life's documentary entitled I'll Be Me 3 years ago. Now that's just 2 weeks before Glen announced his Alzheimer's diagnosis. That back when still had, a whole lot more cognizance. Now the production company called The Record Company, at least in the story it's called The Record Company, and Record and Company are both capitalized, which leads me to believe that that is their actual name. They're actually called The Record Company. Or I'm just had to take my best guess at that. Anyway, this company states that both Glen and the director of the film, James Keach, both agreed to work with them on this documentary, but that the record company had been excluded from participating in the documentary in every way. They are suing for breach of contract. So, now what are the ramifications of this? Can it be legally argued that Glen was not of sound mind when signing? What about his director, James Keach? If a person with Alzheimer's can be sued over agreements they make while afflicted, does that make it open season on patients across the country to try and lure them into signing things they may not comprehend, and then taking them to court when they don't adhere to the agreement they signed but didn't comprehend? Imagine the predators that are going to come out of the woodwork on this. And I'm not calling the record company predators. You know, I'm not making any judgment call. I'm just talking here. Okay. Now the record company, you know, and James Keach was there and in on the deal. So, and as far as I know, James Keach is still to this day of sound mind and body. And I'm not really saying that Glen was not of sound mind at the time, because after all, he was cognizant enough to create an absolutely brilliant new album and also tour for a while battling Alzheimer's. I think it could be reasonably argued that he was of sound mind at the time, at least enough to know what he was signing. But, you know, I don't know. Whichever way this story goes, it will be interesting to see what the ripple effects, if any, that there are. And Opry member Jim Ed Brown, speaking of afflictions, he has unfortunately been diagnosed with lung cancer and has been asked by his doctors to take the next 4 months off performing to concentrate on chemotherapy. Jim Ed is 80 years old and has a new album set for release entitled In Style Again. You are in my prayers, Mr. Brown, and I actually do mean that. Over at The Boot, Christina Vinson is reporting that writer Christina Vinson for The Boot is reporting that Wayne Mills' murder trial has been delayed in court from November 17th of this year to March 2nd of 2015. Wayne Mills is sort of was a regional country artist. He had some regional popularity around the South, and that's why maybe if you're not from this area, you might not know who he is, or actually, I mean, he wasn't that well known, but he had some notoriety. Okay, anyway. No reason has yet been made public as to the reason for the delay of the murder trial, of his murder trial. Now, Wayne Mills, he was killed by a gunshot wound to the head last November after an argument with a Nashville bar owner about him supposedly smoking in a non-smoking area after hours at this bar owner's venue. The bar owner has been charged with second-degree murder. And I finally got some answers as to what the Lady Antebellum 7 for 7 thing was, which I was talking about last week. Apparently, they flew all around the country, surprising 7 different fans at their jobs, schools, and daily lives, and just hooking them up with all kinds of awesome stuff. And the last one they did was at the Country Weekly headquarters, where they flew in a young college student whose dream it was to become a country music journalist. Now, why they're bringing her to Country Weekly for country music journalism, I don't know. Ooh, jab, poke. No. Hey, I found good stories over there this week. Anyway, they didn't actually fly to her. They flew her to them. Under the guise that she was merely going on a tour of Country Weekly, and she didn't know she was coming to see Lady Antebellum. And Lady Antebellum comes out and surprises her. Give her hugs, gave her a brand new MacBook to help her with her writing and journalism, and also hooked her up with an opportunity to cover a red carpet event in Los Angeles with Lady Antebellum and have what she writes from that red carpet published by Country Weekly. How freaking awesome is that? And this is for young late teens, early 20s girl, and that is just amazing. And I got to tell you, that's freaking cool. All right. Moving along to the 615, which is a subdivision of Billboard.com. Montgomery Gentry have released a single from their upcoming new album, expected to drop in 2015. The new song is called Headlights and is their first charting single since 2012. I had to listen to this new song of theirs, and I seriously had to turn it off before the first verse even finished. It was just one tired country cliche after another. But then just about everything I've heard from Montgomery Gentry is just that. I will say that I really like their song Lucky Man, though. You know, and that is one of my favorites. Lord knows I'm a lucky man, lot better than I think I am. I think few dollars in a coffee can. You know, that one. I love that song. It's great. You know, my car's running good. Old ticker's ticking like they say it should. You know, I got supper in the oven. A good woman's lovin'. Man, I got it so good. I'm a lucky man. And I jacked those lyrics up. Now, that is a great song, though. I love that song. Okay? I think I've heard maybe one or two more but, you know, by and large, I mean, you know, I hate to cap on them, too, because they do so much good stuff, especially with the veterans and, you know, all that stuff. So I just not a huge fan of their music. It happens. Okay, also over at the 615, you can hear Todd Rundgren, you know, bang on the drum all day guy. You can hear him singing the theme to the Squidbillies. And that alone is worth more than your price of admission. No, it's more than worth your price of admission. Vince Gill. Also over at the 615. Story about Vince Gill. He now sits on the board of directors for the Nashville Predators hockey team and will be working with them to provide children with opportunities to participate in a hockey and skating programs at the Preds' new facility. That's what we call them here. We call them the Preds. At the new facility called the Ford Ice Center. And ending up over at Nashville Gab, which sometimes I'm going to bring you stuff, sometimes I won't bring you stuff from them because they're more of like a gossipy chit-chat website than a news outlet. But this year, I mean, nothing wrong with being that. It's just they show up in the news when I type it in, and I don't think that's their fault. But anyway, Nashville Gab, they got a couple interesting audio clips to check out. One being Toby Keith performing his country song, courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, allegedly really, really drunk. Allegedly. And the audio clip I heard seems to corroborate that claim. But, you know, you never know. There's like some real slurring in there, and you know. And there are also a couple of audio clips updating the condition of Glen Campbell. One with his wife stating that he is strong and content, which is sort of like one of those things you kind of always say to the public. You don't sit there and say, "Oh, he's curled up in a corner in a lot of pain and hating life," and you know, and he was like, "What? Screaming in control." You wouldn't say that stuff. You know, of course you're going to say he's strong and content. But she did say that he does have a tough time communicating. And there's another audio clip with Glen Campbell's aforementioned filmmaker, director James Keach, stating that Glen is trying some experimental drugs for treatment. Hey, if I was jacked up with Alzheimer's, I'd be doing all kinds of drugs. What do you got to lose, man? Heck yeah, I'd be doing rails. Off the rails. Anyway. Yeah, I'm sure he meant experimental drugs for the treatment. Anyway, the story does go on to state that people suffering from Alzheimer's tend to live on average about 8 years after their diagnosis. Both audio clips about Glen Campbell were sourced from Broadway's Electric Barnyard program and then republished onto Nashville Gab. And this has been your Undercountry Music News! Yeah! Thank you for listening to the Undercountry Music News. The Undercountry Music News is just a small excerpt of the weekly, hour-long internet broadcast Undercountry Music, where I, Neil Smith, not only round up the week in country music news and put my own spin on it, but I also play music and have great interviews by lesser-known original country acts, the kind that you won't hear on mainstream country radio. If you're thirsting for that, get on over to undercountrymusic.com where you can listen and subscribe. You can also subscribe via iTunes to Undercountry Music. Thanks so much. Stay under, stay country.